All right, welcome back, everybody, to Politics and Profits. I'm Rick Amato. Is the political turmoil in Washington, the polarizing turmoil, is it detrimental to the U.S. economy and the U.S. financial markets? My next guest wrote the book, Money, Morality, and the Time Machine, in which he talks about how power-hungry politicians have debased the American dollar and cheapened the U.S. economy. He is the CEO of Swiss-America Trading Corporation. Joining me at this time from Phoenix, Arizona, is Craig Smith. Craig, welcome to the program.
Hey, Rick, great to be with you.
Great to have you with us. Craig, I don't recall any time in my lifetime that the rhetoric has been so abusive, polarized, and just mean-spirited.
Yeah, and I would
go ahead.
And I would even add abrasive. And I think you're absolutely right. And I don't think that can continue much longer, Rick, without having an impact on the economy. We've seen $3 trillion worth of stock market wealth created since Mr. Trump, was elected. And yet now it seems to be the polarization that you're speaking of is starting to make CEOs once again wonder, are we going to go through gridlock and problems? And I suspect the answer to that is yes, they do anticipate that.
So based upon your observations, Craig, one would think that the Democrats would in Congress and the Senate would make it their agenda to create that gridlock, continue the abusive and abrasive behavior, so that the sitting president in the opposition party does not do what he just did today in the announcement of jobs, jobs, jobs. So we should see more of this as a political tactic from the left.
Yeah, I suspect you will, because it is politics. And as I've written in a number of my books, Rick, and I'm sure you would agree, good politics make horrible economics, and good economics make horrible politics. Because if you want to be a good politician, you just promise everybody the moon, you just don't have any way to pay for it. Bad politics are when you tell the people the truth about the American economy, that we are going to have to reform not only health care, but Social Security, Medicare, all entitlement programs. We're going to have to get the $20 trillion debt under control. We're going to have to get the $120 trillion worth of long-term liabilities we face under control. And that's going to mean an American president and his leadership, his cabinet, laying out an agenda that says, look, we can't fix this overnight, but we have to make some very tough, difficult decisions. Just like Ronald Reagan did in the first year of his presidency. People forget he was a very unpopular president, Rick, but he went on to a very successful presidency because he made very difficult decisions in the first 2 years. But make no doubt about it, you're absolutely right. The Democrats will fight him tooth and nail and make it look like he's something out of a horror swamp somewhere.
You don't have a crystal ball, Craig. I realize it. Are you optimistic or pessimistic that our current president will be able to overcome these political hurdles?
Actually, I'm very optimistic. I think we're going to have some short-term pain, Rick, but I think that there's going to be some long-term gain that's going to be involved, because, you know, our founding fathers talked about a money system that needed to be based on religious beliefs and moral principles. That's what John Adams said. And of course, we don't have that. That's what I wrote about in Money, Morality, and the Machine, because the machine that's in Washington, D.C. was warned about by President Eisenhower in 1960 in his farewell address on the military-industrial complex, and how this continuing cycle of money going from contractors to politicians to contractors would one day have to be broken. He couldn't have been more prophetic than his utterances. And so we do have an immoral money system. I mean, the Fed can push a button and create $1 trillion, and yet it takes thousands or millions of man-hours of labor to create that same money in the economy. To create wealth, you can't do it by just creating money. You have to be productive. And that's why we can have low unemployment, and we can even have better GDP, but unless we become a productive nation again, it's not going to count. But I am optimistic. However, there's going to be some inflation that comes with it. I'm also terribly concerned of the recent events that we now know that the NSA has their secrets exposed, the CIA has had their secrets exposed. We, being so internet dependent in America, really are in a pickle, because we are targets for cyber terrorism. And that's why in my last book, Don't Bank on It, I talked about how these threats could potentially cripple the American banking system, not on a long-term basis, but in a short-term basis, and create chaos. And you know markets do not like chaos.
Markets do not like chaos. They do not like volatility. Craig, where would you be investing today? And I realize it depends upon a person's, their age, their circumstances. I'm asking a very general question, I understand. But given the political gridlock which you expect, given that we have a businessman in the White House, the dangers of the NSA and this internet dependency which you describe, where would you be investing today in this environment? And the other caveat I add is the market's 21,000 on the Dow Jones.
Right. Well, I never give specific recommendations, sure, Rick, but I will tell you this: that diversify, just like real estate, location, location, location. We're telling people to take 10, 15% of their money and put it in physically held gold and silver that you take possession of. Have a good portion of your money in blue chip stocks that pay a dividend. The bond market, while I'm very suspicious of the long-term effects of higher interest rates, is still a place where you get a return on your investment. I think investment-grade bonds still look good, and I'm always a big believer in real estate. But the viewers of your program, yeah. I'm so happy to be a guest, Rick, because I'd like to give something back to those viewers. And whether it be my book, Money, Morality, and the Machine, or the book prior to that called Don't Bank on It, where I literally predicted these things that are coming out of the NSA and the CIA, if they'd like a complimentary copy of that book, if they call 800-289-2646 and mention the Rick Amato Show, we'll send it out post-page. It'll cost nothing. There's no strings tied to it. But it will give, see, this is what I love about your program. You want to inform people with all the facts about what's going on so they know what their options are. That's why I was excited when I heard that I got an invite to be on your program. And we look forward to helping you educate the public, because I'm convinced the American people get it, Rick. This recent election shows that. And because of that, if you give them the information like your program is doing, I'm very confident in America. That's why I'm optimistic about the future for America.
Craig, that number again is 800-289-2646?
Yes, sir. 1-800-289-2646. Mention Rick Amato, and I'll either send out Don't Bank on It, The Unsafe World of 21st Century Banking, or Money, Morality, and the Machine, Living in an Overgoverned Age. They're both terrific reads, and I hate to pat myself on the back, but
we're out of time, Craig. I don't mean to interrupt you. We're back after this.